Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the virtual breakfast sessions. I'm Larry Sashin. Oh, today, what a group we have here for you. We're going to be speaking about the metamorphosis of kosher dining. But before we go into that, let's thank our sponsors. Number one, expense reduction analysts. You know, there's gold hiding in those invoices. So if you want to mine some of that gold, call the experts at Expense Reduction Analysts and Ed Flanagan. And Produce Experience, the finest in herbs, salads, and tropical produce. If there's a you need that special difference in your produce, call Produce Experience. So back to our panel. The metamorphosis of kosher dining. Before we go into that, let's introduce our panel. David K., introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is David Kolotkin. I have been cooking professionally for over 30 years. Went to the Culinary Institute of America in 1991, graduated in 93, and I've been honing my craft and skills primarily in Manhattan. At some restaurants you might have heard of would be the 21 Club, Windows on the World with Troon, and I did a 17-year stint as the executive chef, which became a corporate chef role at the Prime Grill, which was originally located on 49th between Park and Madison. And that in the time that I was there, we opened up the Prime Grill Miami, the Prime Grill LA. We opened up a place called Solo in the Sony building. That was like a fine-tuned type of concept where the Prime Grills were all steakhouses, but very innovative and competing with the non-kosher big boys. You know, we had a place called Prime Co., which had a Japanese flair to it. We had Prime at the Bentley, and I could continue going on with all the Primes. We had a lot of them. But I stayed there for about 16 years or so. Wow. And currently, right now, I'm working for a very elite family as a private chef because the restaurant business is a bit much after 30 years.
So. Okay. Thank you. David Z., unmute yourself and say hello to everybody.
Hey, guys. My name is David Zakin. I'm the owner and founder of Paprika Kosher Catering and Restaurant. We've been in business for the past 8 years. The first location was located on the 34th Street in the city by Stern Yeshiva University. We've been working with the Israeli Ministry of Defense Consulate, Kabbalah centers, and other big groups, providing kosher catering, events, and restaurant. Nowadays, we're in Great Neck in Long Island, serving fine dining every single night, celebrating Israel, serving Israeli food, Moroccan food. My wife is Yaron Zakin. She's stage name is Ronnie. She's the chef, cooking Moroccan Israeli food, and having fun doing what we love.
Thank you very, very much. Fred, say hello.
Good morning. I'm Fred Clashford. I'm the editor and publisher of Total Food Service. Looking forward to a great session.
And once again, I'm Larry Sashin. So, the metamorphosis of kosher dining. I remember as a kid, we used to get all excited. We used to go to Ziggy's Deli in either Limbrook or Rockville Center, and it meant pastrami on rye. Or, you know, if we wanted to really get fancy, we either did potted meatballs or tongue Polonaise. It's changed. Kosher dining has changed. David K., and I'm going to use your initials from now on, guys, because it's just too long. So DK, there was a metamorphosis in your cooking from general cooking to kosher cooking. Talk about the metamorphosis of that, what drove you to become a kosher chef, and the metamorphosis of kosher dining itself.
Yeah, so, you know, I always kind of look down on kosher dining because in a lot of the non-kosher restaurants I worked, sometimes we would have a buyout where a kosher client will rent the restaurant and they'd bring in their own caterers and kick us out of the kitchen for the day. and I'd watch them kosher the kitchen. That would involve propane tanks with fire and burning things and boiling things and lots of, heavy duty gloves and pretty much tearing everything apart. And I remember the end result after all this work was pretty much nothing to write home about. I just was amazed that they went through all this labor and work to make this place, to make the kitchen kosher. And what was coming out of the kitchen was, I hate to say it, but garbage, I mean, not much thought into it. My grandmother, may she rest in peace, she was a great, cook, but, I went to culinary school not to make chicken soup and matzo balls. I really wanted to, be innovative in my career. That was my passion. Around the time of 9/11, I found myself unemployed. I did work at Windows on the World. I was there for 3.5 years, but I actually had left the restaurant when the buildings fell. And I was at a place called Pastrami, and they took that this summer, right before 9/11, to close the restaurant, to renovate. When 9/11 happened, the whole city shut down, and unfortunately, I was let go. I was the chef de cuisine, and they cut my position, and they just kept the executive chef who was running the other 2 restaurants in the restaurant group. My headhunter sent me to a place called the Prime Grill, and for 3 to 4 weeks, he was telling me, David, your resume is on top of their desk, the 2 owners. They want to meet you. I think you would be a good fit. You happen to be Jewish. You know the lingo. You understand the community, the religion. You understand kosher. You have good high volume steakhouse experience. They think you'd be great. And I was doing everything I could to avoid going there because I did not want to do kosher. I thought it was going to be, it was not going to be good for my career, is what I initially thought. After 3-4 weeks of him harassing me, I was having some drinks and dinner with some friends at a non-kosher restaurant in Midtown. My headhunter called me and says, Dave, are you interested or not? I hung up the phone. I asked my friends if they wanted to go and check out a kosher restaurant to dine that night. And they all, replied no. So I paid my tab and I went and I sat at the bar at the kosher restaurant called the Prime Grill. And I said, let's see what this is about. And I ordered, first of all, they had sushi. And I thought all kosher food was cooked through because that's just how I was raised. Everything was well done. I didn't know that you could have raw food. That was one thing that really stuck out. Also, the wine. I was used to, accustomed to having Manischewitz on Passover. And they had a Cabernet that was actually decent. It's called Mavushal, which is they kind of pasteurize it. Back then, the process was different than it is now. The process has really improved, and they don't taint the wine much at all. The technology is great. I asked for a steak medium rare because I didn't think that was possible because everything was always well done, and it came out medium rare. The quality was good. I had the house-made sausages, and they happened to be awful, but I liked the fact that they were actually made in-house. And I said I could work on this. I could help them with this. And I had a par dessert, which happened to be very good. So I called my headhunter as I was leaving. I said, put me in touch with these guys. And from there, I did an extensive 10-day interview of tastings and working with the crew. And I said, this could really be a challenge, And I said, I'm not going to do what was known as kosher food, quote unquote. I'm going to do food that happens to be kosher. And I don't want anyone to know that it is kosher. I want to have all guests come, kosher and non-kosher. And with a lot of hard work and a lot of time, I achieved that. We achieved that, and we got the ball rolling. I really consider me and the crew and the founders of the Prime Grill pioneers in this kosher movement. And that's how that started. And I have been continuing with this because I love it. And I love the clientele. I love my people. I feel it's a way for me to give back to the community as well. And I'm very happy doing what I do. I love what I do.
Thank you. Before we get into the nitty gritty of kosher cooking itself, I want to bring David in. David, DZ, please unmute yourself. You had mentioned that you've been in the business for 9 years.
Yes.
What did you do and why did you switch?
So 10 years here to the restaurant business, I was in the cosmetic business. I used to sell products from Israel, from the Dead Sea, minerals. I've been all around. I've been to Louisiana, New Orleans, Metairie. I've been to Texas, Pennsylvania, Connecticut for another 5 years. And I end up having stores in the city, actually 3 stores with my own brand of skincare. And the majority of my workers used to be immigrants from Israel, and they needed that comfort food, the Israeli food. And my wife used to cook for them. If it was in Rosh Hashanah or Passover or any holiday, we used to host them in, make a huge tent in our backyard, and just have a nice, holiday dinner with a big amount of food. And she always got compliments for her food. And um, then I saw the need of my workers wanting lunch, and they were, they went out of the store and come back very late and lose a lot of their day of the work. So I said, you know what, let me launch them. Let me make them the sandwich. And then we start like going from a store to store and give them like a little, baguette with schnitzel sandwich kind of thing. Like, typical Israeli lunch. And this started going like word to mouth in the city, like, oh, there's a guy driving his car and, handing a nice sandwich. It's so fresh and so tasty. We wanted to. It went to 47th Street to the Diamond District. It got to the workers who work in the Israeli Ministry of Defense, like 15 security guys. One of them is calling me, hey, we heard about you. Can you give me 15 sandwiches? I'm like, what's going on here? How these people heard about me? And, before you know it, I see myself opening a side job, driving with, I don't know, 60, 70, 100 sandwiches every day and just supplying it. And it became like a little side business. After that, the demand started to go for a question like, do you make like comfort food like kube, like semolina dumpling with beef in a soup? Or do you make couscous, like things that are more like, processed and deep food, traditional food? And I started doing that too. And I created like a small menu that every day there's something special coming to the city. And everybody started following me. We opened a huge WhatsApp group. This WhatsApp group had like over 3,000 people. And I was like overwhelmed with, going to the city and selling and giving food to different kind of stores, real estate offices, cosmetic stores. Every Jewish spot pretty much heard about me, and it spread out like word of mouth. Beautiful. Then one of the real estate agents that actually rent me the stores for the cosmetic, he told me like, why are you running around? Why don't you just get a kitchen in the city? I have a place called Broadway Burger. The Broadway Burger was on 37th Street and Broadway, and they had a kosher kitchen in the basement they barely use because they only create burgers. They don't really need all that space. So I rented that space for him. My wife went in with another chef. His name is Ben. Today he has a kosher butcher grill in Brooklyn. He has a restaurant there. So Ben was Israeli chef that helps my wife. They work together, and they created a beautiful menu. We put ourselves on Uber Eats, Grubhub, all the platforms, delivery. We had no dining in, no sit down. It started in the basement. People went to get their lunch. They literally sat on the to eat. Crowded. People came in just to find that special spot that has that special Israeli food, comfort food, that you can't find in a lot of places. Then after a year or two, we moved into 34th Street with one of our clients that was religiously ordering food from us and love our food, and he had an idea to sell paninis. In Israel, there's a chain called Sudu. It's like a little bun with cold cuts, pressed paninis, and they made a whole chain out of it in Israel. So he wanted to make it in New York, called Toasty. So we shared a location on 34th Street, me and him. That's how Paprika started as an official store on 34th Street. by then I already left my cosmetic business. I was like fully into the food business. We got like big accounts. We had a lot of people talking about us. My wife was in the kitchen making great food. Obviously, COVID hit. We had to start from beginning. Everything we had to shut down. We collaborate with Kolbe. Kolbe is a kosher Persian restaurant in Great Neck. They had a location on 39th Street. We know them for many years since we live in Great Neck as well. And they offered us a collaboration. We moved into 39th Street working with them, going through the hard times together. And then once Colby closed down their location in the city, we decided to move to Great Neck and open our own location in a community area where we can supply, our special dishes that we develop them along those years together with our clients. What our clients like, what do they love? Taking that comfort food that you can eat on Friday night on Shabbat, and put it on the plate in a modern way. Give it a little bit of twist. And we're having people coming every day, eating in our restaurant. Some people come 4 times a week. Some people come every day. We have like repeated customers. And that's the beautiful thing about our business, that we are feeding people. We're not just a place that you coming in, you order something on the menu and then, you don't come back for the next 6 months. We're like a spot that people want to come back to eat. People want to order food for Shabbat from us every Friday. And we add that vibe that people come to celebrate Israel, dance and have nice music after 9 p.m. And we end up closing at midnight. And every night the place becomes like a party place that people want to come and dance and have fun. And we were able to collaborate the vibe with the taste and the look of that kosher food. And I think we find our niche by doing that.
Okay. Thank you.
Wow.
2 incredibly interesting stories. So, Levy's rye bread used to have a saying. Their motto was, "You don't have to be Jewish to enjoy Levy's." Let's go in. If you've been living under a rock, we can go over what kosher food is. But most people don't live under a rock, and they understand that there is some sort of process. Instead of talking about process, let's talk about the artistic part of this. Let's talk about what is the metamorphosis, what brought pastrami on rye to the dish that DK is about to talk about, is falafel salmon. Let's talk about the birth of that, how you came about it, and how that thing has taken off.
Well, I felt that the kosher community and clientele, my people, were being neglected. They weren't aware of these items. They were boxed into they're boxed into a hole pretty much. When I first started doing kosher, there's really 3 games in town. It was the Prime Grill, it was Le Marais and Abigail's. And if they wanted to go out to dinner, it had to be one of the 3 of them pretty much. And I decided that I wanted to elevate the cuisine and make it like the restaurants that I was trained in, that I worked in all those years prior. Why couldn't we do this for the kosher community? And when I got to the Prime Grill, there was no theme to any item. It was like mashed potatoes and chicken paillard with mushrooms. It was spinach and chicken. It was just put together. And I tried to put a starch, a vegetable, a sauce, and a protein on every plate with different themes. The duck one time I think it was with like a curry duck confit samosa with like a mango jam or something. I tried to put thought into the food and make it creative and fun. And it took a lot of time, and it also took a lot of time for the clientele to adjust and to understand what I was doing. When I first started at the Prime Grill in 2001, I'd say 80% of the steaks that would leave the kitchen were being ordered medium well and above. And as I started to work the room and learn the clientele and get to know my my people that were dining with us and become friendly with a lot of them. Actually, I would say, you know what? Let's try medium today. Rachel, let's try Rachel. Let's try the steak medium today. You've had it medium well the last 2 times, and if you don't like it, I'll cook it more.
Yeah.
And it started like that, and they would listen to me, and they would critique, and we started to form this kind of like relationship, I guess. And next thing you know, about a year later, a year and a half later, medium rare, medium steaks, straight down the line. Maybe only 20% were medium wells and above, and it caught on. I felt that that we weren't given the opportunity. The kosher community didn't have a chance to experience what everyone else was, and I started to bring it to them. Is what I did.
Okay, so talk about the dish that I spoke about.
Okay, so this was a time where we had a restaurant called Solo, and we were converting the theme to a Mediterranean theme. And I try to give flavors that are familiar. I think, like flavors that the kosher community are familiar with are friendly and they're easier to grab onto. So falafel, is a very Israeli dish, and even in the kosher pizzerias they're serving falafel. I never understood that, but they do. So I said, well, let's do a salmon with a falafel crust. So I developed a recipe where I would actually make this dough and with the same ingredients, but I altered the ratios, and I'd actually, put it on top of the salmon and brown the salmon with the crust together. I forgot the garnish that went with it, but I started giving flavors like that. Another dish I did one time was, I think, I called it an everything crusted salmon, because we all know what an everything crusted bagel tastes like. And I served that. It was an everything crust salmon, and I put it with like just a simple mashed potatoes, simple mashed potato, which everybody loves. That's a win-win. And I put scallions and smoked salmon inside, and I kind of gave this like breakfast type of salmon dish, and it took off really well. I think I even did some bagel chips as garnish or something to make it fun and friendly, and not too off the beaten path, where I would scare the people off and they might not even order it. And I created a lot of dishes like that. Another dish that I became very known for were the barbecue duck spring rolls. And that came out by accident, actually. It was during my 10 days of interviewing at the Prime Grill before I was hired. And he wanted me to run specials, the owner. And that was something I picked up. We did a duck spring roll at the 21 Club, but it was like an Asian theme. And I said, this is the Prime Grill. We're a steakhouse, an American kosher steakhouse. I can't lose focus on that. So barbecue, American steakhouse, I thought it would go well. So I created this duck confit, barbecue, cabbage, mushroom type mixture. I put it into a spring roll. And let's be honest, Sunday nights are Chinese nights in the community. We used to go when I was a child too. That was go-to. And it just, the first night I sold 12, then the second night 20. Then I couldn't keep up. I'm selling 70 orders a night. I mean, it was crazy. Trial and error, but I have a good idea what the kosher community likes because, and I don't advertise this, but I don't lie either. I've been on both sides of the fence, so I do know what bacon tastes like. And I, we created a kosher bacon at the Prime Grill in 07 or 08. We started a charcuterie program there. And I was, trying to bring the flavors that weren't available to the kosher community and making them kosher. So that way they didn't feel like they couldn't have what their friends were having. It became a place where my clientele would bring their business associates there and not even tell them it was kosher. And they liked that about the restaurant because they could bring anyone and they would not even know it was kosher. Some of the clientele would be like kind of ashamed or embarrassed, or, they're afraid what their friends or their associates would say. But the Prime Grill was a safe bet. That it was definitely a safe bet.
Thank you. David, David Z. Whereas David K is talking about the avant-garde of cooking, you are, and correct me if I'm wrong, you are bringing out the traditional, the comfort foods, the things that harken back to our youth, but bringing it out in a modern touch. Talk about
Yes.
your cuisine and how you make it special and why your place is packed every night.
Okay. So first, I took what we did is we took different kind of concepts from different Sephardic dishes, right? Like you have
Excuse me, tell the
the
people what Sephardic is, because that might be something
okay.
some people don't understand.
So I mean, obviously the Jewish food has you have the Ashkenazi food, which you have the gefilte fish, the bagel with the lox, and this kind of cuisine. The If it's a steakhouse, they serve the steak very traditionally, and then you have the Middle Eastern Jews, the ones who came from Iraq, from Syria, from Kurdistan, from North Africa, if it's Moroccans, Libyans, right? So these Jews, they used to live for thousands of years with Arab cultures, right? So they adopt a lot of the Arab food and cultures and gave it a little twist into the kosher aspect of it. So, for example, after Passover, the Moroccans have something called the Memuna, which they celebrate. Passover is over. Now we're taking the flour and we're going to make some nice bread. And they take that bread and they put like I don't know, butter or something sweet like chocolate or honey, and they do like a huge celebration. In Israel, it's a big thing. It became like almost like a national holiday. So this little dough called mufleta, it's a very thin dough. It looks like a laffa, like a little flatbread, like a wrap, right? But it's very delicate. It's very soft and it's very tasty. And we took that bread that we normally make it after Passover, and we're doing it every day now. We put inside brisket, we roll it, and we put caramelized onion on the top. This dish became like the flag dish of the restaurant. Like I had restaurant owners visiting my restaurant. I don't know if you know Cafe Megador and 12 Chairs and different kind of restaurant owners from the city. They came in to try and they said like this dish by far like the best dish they ever tried in their life. And that was a great compliment. Other than that, there's another dish that won top 100, help us to win the top 100 restaurants of 2023 by Newsday in Long Island. When they came to visit, they didn't give us any further notice. They ordered everything on the menu. And there was one dish that took their attention. That was the shimdura. Shimdura is a dish that we use tagine. Tagine is a plate, a hot plate, that you can cook it in the oven. They used to use that in the past thousands of years with real fire. They used to put the tagine plate on the fire and cook meat, potatoes, anything you can imagine. And what we do, we cook our meatballs with the onions, tomatoes, raw tahini, pine nuts, and we put all this in that hot plate. We put it inside a special pizza oven that we have, and we put a crust of we put like fresh dough on top, which it becomes like a nice crust, like a pizza crust on the top. And that dish also created a nice scene because it's like a little surprise when you serve it on the table and you open up that dough, and then you have like a lot of smoke coming out of it with the meat in it and the sauce, the tahini. So serving the kebab in this kind of concept created a good flavor, a good the food looks good, the food tastes good, and it makes people want to come back and get more and more out of it. Those are like two flag dishes that I can say that we have that are special. Also, the falafel, by the way, falafel. Like I believe a good falafel has to be served in a place that sells only falafel, right? Not in a pizzeria and other places like that. So I didn't want to do. I mean, I do a really good falafel. I'm originally from Jerusalem. I was born and raised in Jerusalem, and I think like the best falafel joints are there, like those little spots in Jerusalem. You find the best falafel. So out of that memory of a good taste of falafel, after we played with the recipe so much and we came to that special flavor that gives you, I call it a flavor that gives you a taste of more. Like you taste it and you want more. That's a good falafel, you know? So once we created that good falafel, we took a filo dough and we wrap it and we made like a nice cigar because we serve it in fine dining restaurant. And we make falafel cigars. And we serve it with green tahini and schug, which is a hot sauce made of, jalapenos. And people love it. They love it. It's just a little twist. Like we took something traditional and we gave it a twist. That's pretty much what paprika is all about.
So one of the questions that I have is who is your customer? Is your customer somebody looking specifically for kosher, or is your customer anybody? What? Because all I'm hearing is creativity. I'm not hearing about any restrictions. That's what makes this thing so interesting. Is both you guys have brought incredible creativity to the space.
True, that's true. Like we're not aiming to the kosher clients. We're not coming and saying, okay, this is kosher food, and you come eat kosher. Just like the Muslims, they have halal food, so you're going to eat halal food, whatever it is. If it tastes good or not, it doesn't matter as long as it's under that supervision.
Right.
So we have the supervision of Vada Rabbanim of Queens. We're glad kosher. We have a mashgiach timidi who wash the vegetables. We keep everything by the rules of the kashrut. And at the same time, we're being, we're keeping it young, modern, fun. So you don't have to go to a kosher restaurant and eat there because you have to, because you keep kosher. You're going to a kosher restaurant to have a good time, a good flavor, meet friends. It's a whole experience, and not just because you eat kosher. We have a lot of Indian customers who eat vegetarian Indians. They come with their families. They order the falafel cigars. They order our kruvit, which is a cauliflower on top of beets tahini, fire roasted eggplant with chickpeas and harissa and amba, like all Italy flavors we put on our food. We have a lot of vegan and vegetarian options that it brings a lot of not kosher clients in, because you got to go with the flow. You got to see what's going on in the market, up yourself to what's on. We work with influencers. We post a lot of Instagram. Instagram brings us a lot of non and kosher clients. We had a lot of bloggers coming from Brooklyn, super religious or non-religious. 5 towns is like every whole Hungarian community is religiously visiting a restaurant on a daily basis. If it's birthday parties or Shabbat Chatan or anything that they want to celebrate, they come to the restaurant in big groups, 20, 30, 40 people sometimes in one group. And of course, the community in Great Neck, which is the Iranian Persian Jews. We have over 10,000 of Persian Jews in Great Neck that they also they love that concept because how much Persian food you can eat. And Great Neck has like 3 kosher Persian restaurants, which is great restaurants, but it's more like old tradition kebabs and stews. So this is something they like to get on a Friday night or, maybe sometime in the middle of the week, but not every single day. And that's where paprika came, to give a little bit of another option, and not only for Great Neck customers, to everyone in New York.
Thank you. DK, can you expand on that a bit?
The clientele. Well, you know what? I'm dating myself here because let me repeat myself or remind everyone that I am currently not in the restaurant industry. I'm a private chef, so I am not in that hustle and bustle that David Z is in. God bless you, David, on that. It's a lot of work and stress, that's for sure. The clientele of Prime Grill, when I was there were a lot of young and upcoming businessmen with very affluent businessmen and women. But generally, it was really, I always called it the 21 club, a kosher 21 club, meaning if I had the ingredients there, I would prepare it. If they wanted anything special, I would. If I was able to do it, I would do it. And we had a similar concept at the 21 club. And with that said, it was definitely like a man's hangout for lunch, a very big powerhouse lunch. And then for dinners, some couples, some large families, but very sophisticated crowd. The people that would fill our dining room would pretty much run the city and the country, and sometimes even the world. We had a lot of heavy hitters. Some of them you knew by face, like, I mean, Madonna would come in when she was doing the Kabbalah thing. She would come in, and then you'd have other, politicians and other, big players. A lot of money walk through those doors. That's for sure. And now they've all grown up, as we all have, and now their kids are coming to these great restaurants. I can't speak for David at Paprika, but from my experience in Manhattan, now the kids of my former clients are taking over, and they're going to these chic, fun restaurants. For that experience.
You guys kept a lot of these kids kosher by serving them the food you did. If they had eaten the same well done steak that their mom and dad had, they wouldn't be kosher today.
And they know better now, and that makes me really happy. There's a lot of restrictions, and you're talking about creativity, and we have to be creative, especially when I first started doing this professionally, kosher cooking professionally. We didn't have all the products that we have today. Like, I had to make a lot of this stuff. For instance, I would have to make my own liquid smoke to put into my barbecue sauce and make it taste like the big boys we're not cooking kosher. Truffle oil didn't exist. I had to make my own. And a lot of these products, now it's gotten a lot easier for the younger chefs. They have a whole array of products to use, especially for Passover. Some of these pizza crusts, these pizza doughs taste better than all year pizza. The technology has been really improved, but I really try to keep the food simple and keep it hearty and fresh. I don't like to use processed foods. I don't like to use margarine and stuff. If you can't use it, then don't use it. Find a good substitute, but don't try to recreate the wheel. Kosher can be very, very healthy if you do old school kosher, but if you start using these substitute butters and cheeses and fake meats and all that,
where do you go? Where do you guys go to source foods? I mean, are there distributors that just handle kosher foods, or are these Baldor Chef's Warehouse? What do you do?
You have to go to a good kosher meat source. That is the top.
So it starts there. Okay.
It starts at the meat. Now, Baldor and all that, they're starting to carry more products. If it comes from the ground, most likely it's kosher, unless, like David said, he's got a mashgiach cleaning things like asparagus. Baldor has, but can you use the tops? That's where a lot of the parasites and dirt goes in. A lot of the mashgiachs, depending on your supervision of it, if you're under a VOD or the OU, or they might make you take the tops off and peel asparagus. But a lot like Cisco, they have a lot of reps now are specializing in kosher, and they give these representatives to the kosher restaurants because they're more familiar with the products. And when you're waiting on a delivery, we don't have that option to send it back because it's not kosher. When we order it and it comes in, it better be kosher. And believe me, it doesn't happen all the time. Another headache that we have.
David Z, how about you? Where do you source from?
So I source from special distributors that they also have locations in Israel, and they kind of copy themselves to New York. This way, I know that everything I get from them, it's either kosher or it's authentic. Because for example, it's funny, the name of the restaurant is Paprika, but paprika really makes a big difference if you use American paprika or Pereg, like paprika that made in Israel. The flavor, the color, everything is so different. So it's very important for me to use those spices that there are from Israel, and some of them from other parts of the Middle East, like za'atar, the amba, like all those things. It's very important. Even my desserts, I make malabi, and I make halva mousse. Like we create our own desserts from
And
those
what are those?
tradition.
Are they flan like? Are they cake like? What is
It's
a
like
kosher dessert?
flan. Yes, it's
Yeah.
it's like the malabi. It's like a pudding, coconut pudding. With a little bit of strawberry rose water on the top, and flakes of coconut. And it's been served for many years in Israel, either hot or cold. If they serve it cold, they call it malabi. If they serve it hot, they call it taklab. They make it like a hot milk, but they do it from milk. But since I don't use milk, we use the coconut milk as a substitute. But those, and of course, I make sfinge. Sfinge is like one of the best seller in my desserts menu. It's a Moroccan donut, and that's another item that normally Moroccans do after the Passover. To give sweets, they do like little donut that it's so tasty. It's deep fried. That's why it's so tasty, but it's also so good. So we make that dough on a daily basis. I think eventually the fact that we do everything every morning, every single day, even if it's the hummus, doing the hummus from the scratch and make a small amount just for that service, for that dinner, it makes a huge difference. Because when I worked with Kolbe and other big caterings, Letterman and other restaurants, I see that they like to order things in bulk and keep them refrigerated so they can supply to more people, right? I mean, I have a very small restaurant. It's like a boutique restaurant. I can seat up to 80 people. But places like Kolbe or bigger catering, when they have to feed 5, 6, 700 people a day, I think they take the shortcut, and that's where they lose the quality of the food, and they just focus in to feed the many. And that's what makes the place unique. When people come in, they taste the hummus, they taste the dips. That's also one of my welcome when people walk into my restaurant. And it's something that happens in the Middle East. You give a little maza, like a little cold dips to try with a piece of bread that comes right from the oven. It's a nice welcome. People appreciate it, and it's also showing what you have to offer before they ordering from the menu. So it's a nice business card to say, hi, welcome, and this is what I have to offer you. This is what we do here. We do traditional, we do good things, and it works. Yeah, this is my answer. And by the way, I wanted to tell you that also a lot of celebrities who come to show, like singers, they come to have performance in America from Israel. There is they've been going through Paprika asking to feed the singers and the band. So I find myself in the last 2-3 years feeding Omer Adam, Hanan Ben Ari, Idan Reichel, if you know, Eden Ben Zaken, Eden Chasson, all those singers that in Israel, they're like big shots. They come here and they fill up in Brooklyn, King's Theater, or in the city. They fill up a whole cinema. People watch them. They love to see them. And when they come here for Shabbat, they call me. They want food for Friday night. We go to their hotel. We set up a nice, food for them, all kashrut with, those warmers that goes overnight. So they don't have to worry. So every time they come in, they're like, okay, we're going to Los Angeles, we're going to Miami and New York. But, when we're in New York, we know we're being taken care of. We know we're getting ready. We're hungry. We're coming ready to eat your food, because in Los Angeles and Miami, they always get them like shawarma or falafel or whatever sandwich they can get them, or pizza. But when they come to New York, I do give them a variety of menu, like stuffed artichoke with beef and I don't know, like stuffed cabbage and grape leaves and Moroccan fish and couscous. and short ribs, with wine sauce, like this kind of things that they're not gonna find in a deli or in any other store that they're gonna walk in New York.
You guys made kosher. Both you guys have made kosher hip. Fun. What about the beverage side? Let's talk about that for a second. What do cocktails and beer and wine and spirits look like in this world?
You want me to handle that, Fred, or David Z?
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
As far as kashrut,
Yeah.
pretty much alcohol is kosher unless it's flavored, like a flavored vodka, and they don't list the ingredients.
Okay.
Also, some like bourbons and whiskeys if they're aged in oak. Maybe the prior batch was a non-kosher batch in that wood oak prior. And wood is porous, so therefore a lot of bourbons and scotches won't be kosher. But as far as, we have mixologists too. But in a meat restaurant, you can't do, you can't put milk or cream in vodka and call it a Black Russian or White Russian. The clientele are not big drinkers, which is good for the community, but not good for the restaurateur because we like to sell alcohol. You open up a bottle and you mark it up 6-7 times and it doesn't go bad. Where if you order, let's say, a case of artichokes, like David Z said, you're going to have to get those cooking and they have a shelf life. Beer, now they have beer for Passover too. And the wine, the big thing is mavushal, but they used to say it's boiled. Well, it's not boiled. It was brought to a temperature. Now I think what they do, they put over it like a flat slide, and it's flat. And so therefore nothing is piling high, waiting to come to a boil. It just slides right over, and slowly as it's moving along, it gets hotter and hotter and hotter, and then cooler and cooler and cooler. So it does that process very quick, and it doesn't taint the wine. And those wines are very good. And we have non-mavushal kosher wines, which are competing with all other wines in the world.
Okay. All right. We've come to that time where I have to say that time is our enemy. And as I warned everybody before we started, this is an hour that seems like 15 minutes. We've breezed through. You guys have been fantastic. I really appreciate your spending time with us. Before we go, I'd like to have everybody leave that one little tidbit, that little idea of why everyone should try kosher dining. DK, why don't you start?
Okay. The quality is at a level. It's always a higher level. When you go to a non-kosher restaurant, you don't know what kind of meat you're getting. But, if you're going to go to a glatt kosher restaurant, glatt is part of the way that they grade the meat. It has to do with any perforations in the lungs and the stomach. We're not going to get into that, though. But, give it a shot. Good kosher food is clean. It's more expensive because of the supervision that goes from point A to point Z. But give us a fair shot. I've had business friends in finance that had the finest steakhouses, and they would come to the restaurant and I'd give them a steak. We call it the reserve steak. Some know it as the surprise. It's a cap of the rib. It's like the best steak ever. Don't think that, kosher have a bad rap. It does not anymore. Try it.
Okay, thank you. DZ.
Yep. So
why should people come visit you? What is that point?
Okay. So as far as kosher goes, people understand today, I believe more than before, that when they eat kosher, they eat healthy, which means there's less possibility for them to spend the night in the bathroom or wake up with a disease or something. The kosher food is being inspected and the vegetables are being washed. So they're not going to eat any little flies or animals that are hidden inside the vegetables. It's little things, people don't know them. And once they aware, they actually make a decision. It's like going to eat in an organic restaurant. You say, oh, I eat organic. It's probably something healthier, clean. So kosher is in another level of inspection of the food, the clean how the food stay clean, and of course, to keep the restaurant clean. When people walk into a restaurant, the first thing they do, they go to the bathroom, they check if the bathroom is maintained. It's kind of thing, that people want to watch and see. If you maintain your bathroom, you probably maintain your kitchen as well. So these little things, my wife, she's a clean freak. Coming from Jerusalem, cleaning the house. In Israel, we call it sponja. Sponja means that you're actually putting water on the floor and scrape the floor. In America, we see a lot of people take that map and they move the dirt from left to right, right to left, and they don't really clean the floor. They're just moving it from side to side. So the Israeli way of cleaning is different. When we clean the store and people walk in to eat lunch or dinner, the smell they get, the look they see, like there's not even a little dust on the panels on the wall. I'm not talking about the floor. They see how clean is the place. It feels for them, oh, I'm welcomed here. I want to sit here. I feel like I'm in my own home. So being in a kosher place, you know that the place is maintained, the place is clean, the food is clean and healthy, and it doesn't have to be pricey, by the way. There's a lot of items that you can eat. Like I said, I have a lot of people not kosher, like Indians or Asians. They come, they try like even vegetarian meats. They don't have to get the steak. And their bill is not that high, and they keep repeating the place.
Thank you.
So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you. There's a good 2 cents. Fred.
Yeah, I what I got out of this is very simple. Creativity always wins. If you go into this with a creative idea and you sell ideas to customers, you're going to win. And I think that's what both these guys have done.
Yeah, the more I dived into this, I remember kosher food from my grandmother. It was very delicious, but it was the same thing over and over and over again. It was boiled everything. Boiled, you name it, she boiled it.
Yeah.
And what we see here is a wave of not good kosher food, but just really good food.
Yeah.
So I urge you all to go and try your local place, see what the story is. And if you're in the neighborhood of in Great Neck, stop in, say hi to David. So, like I said, it's that time of the day where we have to thank our sponsors. Once again, expense reduction analysts. There is gold hiding in your invoices that you got stuck on your desk on a pin. Call the people at Expense Reduction Analysts and see what they can mine out of it. Ed Flanagan is waiting for your call. And Produce Experience, the finest in herbs, salads, and tropical produce. If it means a difference in your restaurant, go to Produce Experience. And we'll be back in 2 weeks. So we'd like to see you again. And once again, thanks for showing up. And only 2 things left to say. Everyone, stay positive, test negative, and I'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye now.